Hi everyone, my name is Christopher Stanley. I'm a professional musician and a full-time yoga teacher. And I am making this video on behalf of our marching Scouts and Ultimate Drill Book to give you some tips and tricks on how to find your body's equilibrium. So when we talk about our equilibrium, we're talking about equal weight displacement in our foundation, meaning our feet. Also, we're talking about joint stacking. Are our shoulders in line with our hips or pelvis? And is our pelvis in line with our ankles? Finding this for your individual body will give you the best advantage and set you up for success for any type of movement you need to encounter, be it traditional marching, whichever techniques you're using in your program, or any type of choreography or non-traditional movement according to the marching world. So to start out, bring your feet together so they're touching. You can bring your hands to your hips or hands by your sides. All we need to work on is not messing with our weight displacement with our hands. So hands on hips or at your sides is totally fine. From here, bring your feet out, hips width distance. So that's a misnomer because when we think about our hips, we're thinking about the fleshy parts of our hips. So we wind up sometimes stepping out too wide. What we need to think about is our bone structure at all times when it comes to finding our equilibrium. So it's usually just about 20 or 30% shorter than you're used to maybe stepping out. Some people step out this wide and it just helps them relax. That's totally fine. But when we talk about our bone structure, we need to make sure we're always thinking about joint stacking. So once we find our hips width distance, I'm going to turn to the side here to show joint stacking. So with joint stacking, we want to make sure, again, 3 points of contact: shoulders over pelvis or hips, hips over ankles. To really fine tune that, start to lean forward until you begin to have to step forward so you don't fall on your face. Or begin to lean back until your body and momentum takes you backwards. Those are two extremes. So to find that really nice sweet spot, start to lean back just ever so slightly until you're able to just lift all of your toes off the ground without your body either falling backward or falling forward. This is really the sweet spot for your equilibrium. Now we all have different insteps, outsteps. Some of us wear insoles in our shoes. Some of us prefer a more barefoot feel. When you're finding your equilibrium, you want to find the hardest surface possible. Right now I'm on a yoga mat, so I can feel every single thing with my feet. And you want to make sure to either, if you can, take your socks off so you can feel as much of the ground as possible, so you understand what that foundation is with no separation of contact from your feet to the floor. So once you find that equilibrium, it's best to do this in front of a mirror so you can look to the right or to the left and see exactly what your shoulders are doing in relation to your hips and ankles. Sometimes you may see your hips jut out a little bit farther forward, and you just bring it back until you start seeing the 3 points of contact come into line, or vice versa. Same thing with standing facing the mirror. Hips width distance, and maybe you might see one shoulder higher than the other, or maybe you're leaning to one side, depending on how your joints feel, if you have any previous injuries that you need to take into account. But you just need to see and visually understand what your body does versus to what feels normal. And then from there, you just need to use trial and error to really make sure you find what your equilibrium is. As long as your shoulders are over your hips are over your ankles, that's proper joint stacking when standing in a static position. This obviously changes, not so much when you get into movement, when you begin to engage muscles. But the key is, when you're always in that equilibrium, you're always in control. That's it for now. Feel free to look at all of these videos amongst this series to really find what you need to be prepared and set yourself up to have the best season possible for any type of movement that you're doing, even if it's sitting in a concert hall. All of this stuff applies. Once again, thank you very much. Stay safe, stay healthy.